Incredible moment. Dog courageously leaps into frozen lake to rescue mother cat and her 3 kittens. The cold air bit down on Jake as he trudged toward the frozen lake, the thin crunch of snow underfoot echoing the urgency building inside him. His heart was heavy, not just from the isolation of the winter morning, but from an unshakable feeling of responsibility. This lake was his duty. The bitter cold had made its inspection urgent. And yet, the icy wind seemed to whisper doubts into his ear. He thought of the bittersweet cycle of loss and loyalty that had marked his own life with family, connections forged in hard times, tested by life's inevitable cruelties. Suddenly the frantic meows shattered his concentration. His head snapped up, eyes scanning the landscape. There, at the edge of the lake, was Mia, a desperate mother cat, her 3 kittens quivering on the precarious ice, shadows of fear in their tiny forms. Jake's stomach twisted. Could he ignore the plight of those vulnerable lives, knowing the danger so close? What kind of man would he be if he turned away? He inhaled sharply, grappling with the thoughts racing through his mind. The biting cold, which had only been a backdrop to his morning chore, now felt like a judgment on his character. Just as he hesitated, he felt the tug of the leash. Max, his golden retriever, whined softly, tail thumping the ground, his instincts picking up on Jake's turmoil. There was a glimmer of bravery in Max's eyes, but Jake's heart sank. Would he risk everything and leap onto that ice? The memories of childhood flooded back, the moments when courage had defined him, and family ties were tested against the unforgiving nature of life. The weight of his past anchored him. Perhaps this had nothing to do with the cat at all. Before he could think further, Max dashed forward, plunging into the icy depths of the lake. Gasps erupted from the few passers-by who had noticed, and their expressions were mixed. Admiration clashed with incredulity. Jake's breath came in heavy gulps, panic tightening his chest. "Max!" he shouted, propelled by fear. He felt exposed, battling not only the cold, but the swell of emotions within. The moral dilemma twisted again. Was it right to risk one life for another? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications, so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake pressed onward, muscles tensing, the situation spiraling in a feverish rush. As he reached the edge of the lake, the cracking of ice punctuated the air. He knelt down, urging Mia to move away from danger, but the cat was paralyzed with fear, torn between instinct and uncertainty. Jake recognized that this moment encapsulated more than just a miraculous rescue. It was a question of humanity, community, and what it meant to be truly heroic in the face of despair. Just as he felt a flicker of solidarity in the crowd forming behind him, another ominous crack shattered the air. Those sounds mirrored the silence building in Jake's heart, a swift reminder of fragility. With each passing second, uncertainty steeped deeper into the air, wrapping tightly around what could become an even greater tragedy than any of them anticipated. Jake's fingers tightened around the frigid ice as he pushed himself closer to the edge, desperation clawing at his insides. Max was fully submerged, and panic tightened its grip on Jake's chest. The dog's brave dive seemed almost reckless now, leaving Jake to wrestle with the fear of losing him as well. Shadows of doubt tormented his mind. Would he be able to save them all, or would indecision lead to disaster? The crowd held its breath. Their murmurs hung thickly in the air, a symphony of anxiety and hope. But Jake could hardly perceive them. His world narrowed to the fragile balance between courage and cowardice. Could he trust his instincts to guide the way out of this frozen moment? "Come on, Mia!" he shouted again, his voice wavering as he leaned close to the trembling cat. She remained rooted to her spot, fur bristling, eyes wide in terror. He saw now how every inch of her body was quaking, paralyzed by fear just like him, questioning the world around her. Was this what his life had become? A series of painful hesitations? Jake's mind raced through memories of his father, who had once taught him the meaning of duty, even in uncertain times. Real courage, his father had said, isn't the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it. Struggling to peel away the layers of doubt that had accumulated over the years, Jake felt a renewed determination take root. "Max!" he called, louder this time, unaware of a voice echoing in his head, his own rekindling that belief he had buried. He shifted his focus to the water, scanning for Max's golden fur. Suddenly he spotted a ripple, and with urgency, he scrambled closer, deciding there was no room for hesitation now. A quick sideways glance back at Mia made it clear. She needed a push, someone to step out of fear and take control. With a final stealing breath, he reached out and grasped the edge of the ice, testing its stability. He could feel the world shift beneath him once more as he steeled himself to let instinct take over. "Just a little closer," he urged, half to the cat, half to himself. "We can do this." In one swift motion, he crawled toward Mia, arms shaking, and steadied his resolve. He had been molded for moments like this, but life had diluted his courage. It was time to reclaim it. As he inched closer, he could feel the ice protesting beneath him, threatening to fragment further. Panic flared anew, but it fueled him. With one desperate surge, he reached for the trembling kittens. "Grab them!" he yelled, hoping Max could hear him. The dog, having freed himself from the icy grip below, rapidly paddled back toward them, his tether to Jake the heart of their shared journey. As Max emerged, water cascading off his fur, he barked, a triumphant sound piercing through the thick veil of anxiety enveloping the scene. They could do this together, Jake thought. There was still hope amidst the folly of desperation, and at that moment, clarity broke through Jake's mental fog. Wasn't this exactly what he had been searching for? A chance to confront fear and claim his own capacity for bravery? As the kittens reached out to Mia, intertwining bonds of trust began forming even under their dire straits, stirring something deep within him, a realization that his existence could mean more than mere survival. But just as he thought they were on the cusp of rescue, another sharp crack echoed, vibrating the ice beneath him. Jake felt his heart drop, the looming potential for disaster forcing him to confront the fact that bravery came with its own costs. What if this powerful moment became an even greater test of will, demanding more than he anticipated? Time hung suspended in a fraught silence, eyes wide as the stakes changed. The lake might yet reveal whether Jake was ready to rise to the true challenge ahead, or fall under the weight of burden and doubt. The ice shuddered again, a cruel reminder of its fragility. Jake's heart raced as he felt the weight of the moment settle over him. This was no longer just about saving Max or the kittens. It was about confronting his own limitations. With every ounce of focus, he peeled back the layers of worry that clouded his mind. His gaze flicked between the shivering Mia and the water's dark depths. He could see Max paddling, instinctively trying to navigate toward the vulnerable kittens. But the ice felt increasingly unstable, challenging him, as if it were testing the resolve he sought to nurture. "Act. Don't react," he recalled his father's voice echoing in his head. It struck a chord deep within, pulling him away from the inertia of fear. He pushed Elle to remember moments when hesitation had robbed him of opportunities, times when he'd allowed doubts to chain him to the ground. No more. Jake's instincts surged as he reached out again, yelling forcefully, "Mia! Get to the edge!" The words took on a life of their own, breaking through the paralyzing air. He needed to channel his fear into action, not just for himself, but for those he loved. For a moment Mia hesitated, her pupils dilating as she peered down at the water, then at Jake. Just like Jake, she was trapped in a cage of uncertainty. But he saw a flicker in her eyes. Perhaps she sensed his urgency blending with her own desperation, a silent communication that transcended fear. "Trust me," he breathed, and then impulsively, he slid closer, ignoring the cracks beneath him. With a quick glance back at Max, who was inching closer as furiously as possible, Jake took a deep breath, stuffing his doubts into the corners of his mind where they couldn't disrupt his concentration. Time to act. He transfixed his focus on Mia, his heart sinking with the rhythm of the chaotic adrenaline coursing through him. Perhaps it was the combination of their shared fear, or maybe it was the instinctive urge to protect that pushed him to suggest the impossible. "Come on, jump to me." There was a heartbeat of silence before the weight of that request settled in. The kitten mewed again, creating a ripple of empathy within both of them. Maybe Mia realized that this was their chance, what they had both been waiting for. Overcoming her own trauma, the cat took a tentative step forward, then another, each movement a victory over the fear that paralyzed her. Just then, a cracking sound reverberated again, sharper, more urgent. Jake quickly planted his hands firmly on the ice, bracing himself for whatever happened next. "Nails in," he murmured to himself, reminding him to dig deeper, cling tighter. But the ice betrayed him once more, fracturing under the weight of a single powerful jolt. In that instant, Mia launched herself toward him, propelled not just by instinct, but by trust. Every ounce of fear and worry merged into resolve as she leaped toward Jake. He stretched his arms wide, welcoming the fragile creature, and just as their connections interlocked, the ice splintered beneath him. Time shattered, slowing down in a surreal moment that felt like it could last forever. Was this to be the culmination of all he had fought against? Would the moment of his action, of striving, lead to triumph or ruin? Jake felt a surge of desperation, a visceral need to hold on and protect. But this time it was different. It was as if his past hesitation smashed against crumbling ice, igniting every suppressed fear within him, fueling a hunger for action. Max and Mia collided with him, cascading into a river of instinct and instinctive loyalty. Yet the ice, unforgiving, cleaved away, forcing Jake to confront not only the depths of the cold water, but the depths of his own self. Could he really rise above this? Would he even survive this twisting crisis? The courage he sought now demanded a final reckoning. The water lurked beneath, a sinister guardian waiting to claim the weight of his choices. Jake dared to look down into the abyss of uncertainty, his fate twisting through the tendrils of courage and fear. Is this the moment where he pushes forward, or surrenders? The lake held its breath too, waiting to see what Jake would commit to next. The critical moment seemed to stretch into infinity, Jake teetering on the edge of a decision that could redefine everything. The icy water below beckoned him with an inevitability that felt both terrifying and oddly liberating. As his breath quickened, clarity washed over him, not just the weight of the surroundings pulling at him, but the realization of what he truly wanted. It was not just survival, it was the acknowledgement of deeper truths within himself. He had spent most of his life living in the shadows of fear, allowing countless opportunities to slip by. This moment was more than a physical test of bravery. It laid bare all the hesitations he had nursed, the dreams he had allowed to wither under the oppressive weight of what if. With the sound of ice cracking around him, Jake felt the urgency crystallize his thoughts. He had a choice to make: surrender to fear and risk losing everything, or dive headfirst into the unknown, armed with hard-earned resolve. The contrast jolted him awake. Time to act, he thought again. No longer just a rote phrase, but a mantra echoing in the void around him. He could lead, could fight against the primal instincts that told him to retreat. Against his better judgment, he felt the surge of determination reigniting in his spirit. Mia, still trembling in his grasp, seemed to respond to his resolve. Her wide eyes met his, a shared understanding passing between them that could only be born from moments of unspoken vulnerability. It struck Jake then, like a flash of brilliance in the haze of fear. They were connected not only by their plight but by the courage to step into the chaos together. Without thinking, he tightened his grip around Mia, and with a fierce exhalation, tipped sideways into the frigid water. The icy shock enveloped him instantly, and Jake gasped, instinctively clutching Mia close. The water gripped at every inch of exposed skin, an unyielding force that sought to pull him down and away. But he had not come this far to falter. He kicked out, buoyed by adrenaline and purpose, pushing against the depths that threatened to swallow them whole. His gaze remained fixed on Max, whose determined paddles guided him ever closer, each movement reflecting his unwavering resolve to protect. Even in the chaotic swirl of water and ice, Jake's thoughts coalesced. He recalled moments during his life when he had faced daunting challenges. Each time, he had hesitated, seen only the obstacles rather than the openings that lurked within. Yet here, amid swirling breaths of shock and fear, Jake found an unexpected strength. As Max broke the surface next to them, his eyes locked onto Jake's. He was there, a fierce protector, emphasizing that loyalty was not just something that existed between animals, but also a lesson Jake needed to embrace. The willingness to fight for those he loved. "Keep going," Jake shouted, words internal and external, driving toward action rather than retreat. The water, once a boundary, now felt like a catalyst, urging him to rise, not only for Max and Mia, but as a testament to his evolution from timidity to assertiveness. He felt the slight warmth of Mia's fur against his own cold wrist. Her trust seeped into him, spurring him onward, beyond self-doubt. He could see the edge of the ice slowly coming into view, a stark contrast to the chaotic depths he battled against. The surface of the ice beckoned like an unobtainable dream, driving a new pulse of determination through him. It was a moment of clarity, a moment he would remember, across years and experiences, where fear became fuel. He allowed himself to imagine not only reaching the edge of the ice but what it meant, how much more there was to discover, and what potential lay ahead of him, beyond the icy grip of the lake. But as they neared the precarious edge, he could feel the ice shifts beneath them threatening to split again. Would this still mean triumph? Or was there still more to confront, the question lurking in those frigid depths yet unanswered? Jake's heart pounded, a drum to the rhythm of the shifting ice, as he readied for one final push. This was his moment of truth, the last barrier between action and surrender. As they surfaced, the biting cold momentarily clouded Jake's senses. He gasped for air, his lungs burning, but the rush of adrenaline kept him focused. Each stroke felt more powerful than the last, his body propelled by a mixture of instinct and purpose. The edge of the ice was within reach, but the shifting surface beneath him posed a peril that demanded every ounce of his strength and mental fortitude. Mia's soft, terrified whimpers echoed in his ears, a stark reminder of the stakes at play. He couldn't let fear congeal into hesitation now. With every kick, he reaffirmed the determination that had surged upon his leap into the ice-cold abyss. Somewhere deep inside him, buried beneath layers of self-doubt, slumbered a fighter, and it was waking up. He spotted the faint outline of Max, a slick shadow darting through the freezing water. The dog's instinct to protect fueled Jake's resolve. As they emerged closer to the fractured edge of the ice, he sensed a chasm of regret widening within, reflecting all that had held him back before this moment. How many more chances would I allow to slip away? He questioned silently, shaking off years of self-imposed limitations. This wasn't just about survival. It was about growth, about acceptance. Mia nested closer against him, her warmth a symbol of trust, igniting the flames of courage within Jake's chest. His hands gripped her firmer, leveraging the bond that formed in an instant, a bond forged through crisis. He realized he had never allowed anyone to depend on him before. With a jolt of realization, he understood that all those years of playing it safe had kept him confined to a realm of mediocrity. He could be more than he was. He could embrace his potential if only he dared to break through the ice that had held him back. The edge of the ice came closer, and Jake could almost taste victory. However, the treacherous cracking sounds beneath him snagged his thoughts. Each shift sent bitter chills down his spine, reminding him of vulnerabilities he had long sought refuge from. But this moment was different. Facing adversity is essential, he mentally reminded himself as he fought against the grim reality that the ice might betray him now, just as fear had betrayed him before, leading him to retreat too soon or hold back when it mattered most. "You've got this, just a bit farther," he shouted toward Max, his breath hitching as he pushed harder against the frigid water. With another surge, they repeated the movement together, 1, 2, 3 strokes toward salvation. But doubt lapped at the edges of his mind, hammering at the foundation of his newfound bravado. What if they didn't make it? What if this act of bravery became one of futility? Catching a glimpse of Max's tenacity gave him the fuel to drive forward. The dog's eyes burned with unwavering belief, a mirror of Jake's own potential now finally ignited. "If Max can trust me, I can trust myself," he silently vowed, inhaling deeply and propelling himself with every ounce of his being toward the ice. Just as he reached out for the edge, disaster struck. The ice beneath him cracked dramatically, sending an ominous fissure racing toward them. In that moment of chaos, something instinctual surged within Jake, the realization that he was standing on the threshold of real change, where his very sense of identity could pivot. With no choice but to push through the sudden threat of collapse, he propelled himself forward, his fingers grasping desperately at the jagged edge of ice. Would he hold on, or would he slip back into the depths from which he pulled Mia? The ice held as he clung tight, but the battle for his future had only just begun. As he pulled Mia close, Jake wondered if he had truly embraced his newfound strength, or if deeper challenges awaited him just ahead, lurking beneath the icy facade of his past. The adrenaline coursed through Jake's veins, a wild tempest igniting every nerve ending as he hoisted Mia firmly against his chest. The ice beneath him groaned ominously, a constant reminder of the precariousness of their situation. With one hand gripping the thin surface, he hesitated for a split second, staring into the depths below, wrestling with the iron grip of fear that threatened to drag him under once more. This was not just about the physical struggle. It was a battleground for his identity, his choices, and the resolve to seize what lay beyond the void. Mia's grip tightened around him, pulling him back from the brink of despair. In her eyes, he saw not just trust, but the reflection of a future worth reaching for. One painted with courage, vulnerability, and growth. The reality settled in. He was responsible for her safety now, for her belief in him, which was as palpable as the cold water surrounding them. The moment crystallized into clarity. This was his chance to redefine himself, to stand against the shadows that had dictated his life decisions until now. Pushing against the frail ice, Jake called upon every fragment of strength he possessed. "You've got to rise," he urged himself. "This is your moment." One desperate pull after another, he inched toward the edge, the cracking pieces of ice fracturing beneath him, as if they were the very chains holding him back. The struggle became a reflection of his inner turmoil, every stroke countering the overwhelming past of doubt and hesitation. Just a little more. The words burst from his lips, laced with determination. Each push forward shattered the obstacle of self-limitation he had allowed to grow. He wasn't just fighting the icy waters. He was confronting the fears that paralyzed him for years, those nagging thoughts that whispered he wasn't good enough or brave enough. But what was fear, if not a prison of his own making? Then, with a final surge, he felt a hard surface beneath his fingertips, a lifeline. Grappling with everything he had left, he pulled himself and Mia onto the ice. It held, painfully thin but resilient beneath their combined weight. Gasping in relief, he rolled onto his back, drawing Mia into his arms, both of them breathless from the ordeal. But he didn't succumb to the sweetness of victory for long. A stirring in the pit of his stomach urged him to act. They weren't safe yet. The erratic cracking continued beneath their weight, and he could hear distant barks echoing farther up the shore. Max was valiantly scaling the embankment, eyes sharp and determined, barking orders as if to hurry Jake along. Had he demonstrated courage in trusting Jake, only to see him falter? "Come on, buddy," Jake shouted, the urgency laced with pride and renewed determination. He was not alone. He had to lead from the front now, not just for Mia, but for Max, too. He knew instinctively that this moment was not merely about escaping drowning. It was about redefining the semblance of leadership that had eluded him throughout his life. Jake scrambled clumsily across the fragile surface toward a broader patch of ice, urging Mia to follow. But beneath him, a sudden sharp crack echoed, launching fear to the forefront of his thoughts again. "This isn't a game anymore," he warned himself, feeling the tension of the ice beneath shift dangerously with each movement. Recollections of his previous limitations, from the longing for validation to the shying away from risk, flooded his mind, leaving him breathless with the weight of understanding. He couldn't afford to let fear coerce him back into the shadows. He had to take the risk, to confront the real icebergs of his past to ensure a stronger future. Just as they reached the more stable part of the surface, panic struck again. Could he really do this? Could he embrace vulnerability and leadership without faltering? In that heartbeat of hesitation, he caught a glimpse of determination reflected in Max's unwavering gaze. The pressure built once more within him. Could trust be enough to advance forward, or would he falter when it really mattered? The real battle lay ahead, waiting for him to discover if he could truly trust in both himself and those he held dear. Would he seize this opportunity for growth, Or might deeper challenges wait just beneath the surface, ready to ensnare him once more? With each movement across the ice, Jake felt the remnants of fear begin to dissolve, replaced by an urgent clarity. The realization that he had fought his way to safety, for both Mia and himself, ignited a flame of newfound purpose within him. Yet, he was far from his personal summit. He had only begun to traverse the mountain of recovery and growth. As they staggered toward a more secure patch of ice, the roots of his past still clawed at him. What if this was merely a temporary reprieve? Pushing doubt aside, he turned to Mia, who was beginning to regain her composure. Her spirit sparked a flicker of hope. What had been a terrifying nightmare was now a shared crossroads. This moment, fraught with potential for further danger, became for Jake a canvas upon which to paint the kind of leader he longed to become. "We're okay. We're going to be okay," he said, more to convince himself than her, the words buoyed by determination. But as they reached the edge of the ice, the cracks began to sound louder, threatening his momentum. Without knowing why, he glanced back at Max, who was emerging from the embankment with a steady gait, full of purpose. In those deep, intelligent eyes, Jake saw a reflection of trust blending with something deeper: faith. Max had believed in his ability to step up, and now Jake had to find the will to believe in himself. "All right, let's keep moving," Jake urged, gesturing for Mia to follow him inland where the ice was thinly but noticeably melting under the sun's agonizing touch. He felt a swell of adrenaline push him forward, bolstered by the knowledge that both Mia and Max depended on him. The weight of their trust grounded him, urging him to stop thinking and start doing. They made their way across the uncertainty, Jake acutely aware that each step was a testament to his growing resolve. Every slip, every hesitant pause reflected the countless moments when he had faltered in the past, hesitating on the edge of opportunity. The bubbles of self-doubt, previously unwavering, began to burst under the surge of clarity. He hadn't chosen this moment, but he could choose how to respond to it. Just before the more stable land, he caught a glimpse of Mia looking back toward the ice. Her breathing had steadied, but her eyes bore an imprinted concern. It reminded him of the weight of responsibility hanging over him. Was he truly equipped for leadership? This moment felt pivotal, almost a rite of passage. With her trotting carefully beside him, he found a profound truth within himself. Leadership wasn't merely about strength. It was about recognizing his vulnerabilities and using them to foster connection. "Stay close to me," he instructed in a calm yet firm voice. His own heart raced not with fear, but with a profound sense of commitment to not only protect Mia, but guide her through whatever challenges awaited beyond their perilous crossing. As they reached solid ground, a wave of relief washed over Jake, only to give way to a gnawing thought. What had he truly learned from this brush with danger? The realization hit him. He had to fully engage with the struggles ahead, not sidestep them. It was about breaking the cycle of fear, not just for him but also for Mia. Now, as they approached a forest edge where uncertainty lingered like a fog, another revelation bubbled up. There was more to face than just the fears beneath the ice. Ahead, shadows danced among the trees, obscuring the path, possibly hiding new challenges. Would he emerge from these woods transformed, or would he retreat into the old patterns? Jake paused, heart pounding, at the mouth of the looming uncertainty, knowing that the time had come to confront not just the external obstacles, but those lingering doubts within. Whatever awaited him on that twisting trail could shape him, but he had to make the choice to embrace it. "Let's go," he said with a renewed fire in his voice, turning toward the forest. This was merely the beginning of a quest for his identity that may redefine everything. As he stepped into the unknown, he was ready to confront not only the elements, but the very essence of who he was becoming. Was this jungle of complexity the real trial he had to face to salvage his newly found courage? The tension in Jake's chest sharpened as he stepped forward into the dense undergrowth. Branches snagged at his clothes, each movement a reminder that he was traversing a realm filled with uncharted territory, both outside and within him. The failure he had long feared loomed larger in this suffocating atmosphere, but he resolved to confront it head-on. Around him, the forest whispered secrets through rustling leaves and occasional bird calls, but Jake stayed focused. He couldn't afford any distractions. Each step brought him closer to what felt like an inevitable encounter with his own limitations. He stole a glance at Mia, who followed closely. Beneath the apprehension in her eyes lay a budding trust that he had never owned before. It pushed him to dig deeper. The trees thickened, their shadows stretching like gnarled hands, but he pressed on. He questioned if this was how isolation started, not within, but amid those who trust you. What if he failed her now? Would this be where he succumbed to the weight of his past? Where he'd falter in her time of need? His thoughts roamed back to Max. The dog's steady presence had been pivotal during their harrowing escape, a talisman of faith amidst danger. Jake had admired Max's instinctual display of courage, and that admiration took root in his own psyche. Perhaps he wasn't just meant to be a protector, but a source of inspiration, finding strength through vulnerability, connecting through shared challenges. Upon reaching a clearing, Jake halted. The ground was soft, the air thick with the scent of damp earth, yet hesitation flooded through him. What if the clearing was just a temporary space filled with illusions? He could sense the challenge breaching the horizon, a primal urge to turn back and renounce the growth that was threatening to spill from his heart. "Mia," he said slowly, voice steady, "I need you to trust me. I don't know what we'll face next, but I promise to guide you." The commitment in his voice surprised even him. "What if we don't make it?" she asked, her youthful brow furrowed with earnest worry. "It won't be because of lack of effort," he responded instinctively. "Let's confront this together." The realization that he could inspire courage in her filled him with a surging energy. He was not only responsible, he was capable, more than he had ever believed. As they crossed into the clearing, Jake noticed a swift change in the atmosphere. Tension tightened the air, rattled by challenges he could feel lurking in the underbrush. Suddenly, the tranquility shattered as a rustling erupted nearby. Fear squeezed his heart. Instinctively, he dropped to a crouch using the forest's natural camouflage. "What was that?" Mia whispered, eyes wide. "I don't know, but stay close," he instructed as he scanned the perimeter. The moment felt electric with unknown possibilities. Direct confrontation loomed, and his own past fears surged in response. But the new determination blossoming within him felt equally intense, a complicated blend of trepidation and resolve. The rustling turned into a distinct snapping of branches, and from behind a cluster of trees, a dark figure emerged. Jake's breath caught. This was it, the moment to either flee or face whatever awaited with the heart of a challenger. Encountering whatever was about to step into the clearing held the potential to open gate after gate of personal growth. Could he hold on to his newfound perspective, operating in courage rather than fear? As he took a cautious step forward, the shadows stirred behind the trees, revealing not just the stranger, but perhaps an opportunity for transformation he hadn't anticipated. With heightened anticipation, Jake prepared to confront whatever awaited in the depths of the forest, knowing that the encounter would define him far beyond the present moment. Would he meet this challenge and evolve, or would he allow past failures to consume him once again? The answer was just ahead, shrouded in mystery and danger. Edging forward, he steeled himself for what lay ahead. Could this encounter lead to his ultimate test, or would he embrace the vulnerability he had long evaded? As the figure emerged from the shadows, Jake's heart pounded a rapid tattoo in his chest. He strained to make out the details through the thick underbrush. The shape could have been anything, a threat, a benign stranger, or even a reflection of his own inner turmoil. The figure stepped closer, and with each movement, Jake felt a pang of both fear and curiosity. The air, once thick and heavy, now crackled with a potential he couldn't ignore. Instead of retreating, he found himself moving toward it, driven by a need to understand what lay before him, both externally and internally. Mia's grip tightened on his arm, a silent plea for reassurance, yet boundless trust seemed to swell from her presence. The responsibility of guarding that trust weighed heavily on him. At that moment, he realized he was not merely a passive participant in this unfolding drama. He had the power to shape it, confronting whatever challenge loomed ahead. "Stay with me," Jake whispered, his voice low but firm. He kept his eyes fixed on the advancing figure while mentally sifting through his own layers of doubt. Would he falter? Would he run? Or would this be the moment he finally started to forge a new narrative? As the figure stepped fully into the clearing, Jake's breath held. A woman, slightly disheveled, emerged from the shadows. Her eyes mirrored both desperation and determination, mirroring Jake's turmoil. She was older than Mia, perhaps in her 30s, with wild curls framing a face that bore the marks of struggle yet also resilience. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, still cautious. She glanced at both Jake and Mia, assessing their presence with a protective instinct. "We could ask you the same," Jake replied, surprised at his calmness. The encounter was shaping into a conversation, rather than a confrontation. Here was a person, someone with her own story, perhaps parallel to his own journey. "I'm looking for help," she said, her voice softening. "My daughter is lost deeper in the woods." Jake shifted as her plea resonated deeply within him. He considered his own struggles with vulnerability and how fear had often isolated him. Finding his voice, he said, "We'll help you find her. It's easy to get lost out here." Mia looked up at Jake, wide-eyed, yet reassured. A complex tangle of emotions surged within Jake, determination mixed with fear. But beneath it all, a flicker of hope ignited. This was a call to action, not just for him, but for Mia too. Just like Max's unwavering bravery had inspired Jake, perhaps he could harness this opportunity to inspire Mia. "Let's go," he said, his voice firm and resolute. A newfound sense of purpose fueled him as they stepped further into the unknown. Every thicket they pushed through and each rustle they navigated became an affirmation of the growth happening between them. But then, a chilling thought struck him. Was he willing to face the personal demons that came with this rescue? Was he capable of guiding not only Mia, but this woman through their own labyrinth of fears? Doubt crept back in, pulling at the edges of his confidence like the encroaching shadows of the forest. As they ventured deeper, the trees closed in, their silhouettes dark and looming. The path ahead twisted unnaturally, mirroring Jake's own spiraling thoughts. He had to confront his past failures. This was not just about rescuing someone else. It was about liberating himself from his internal chains, reclaiming his identity. The deeper they wandered, the more Jake sensed the weight of misgivings hanging in the air, a reminder that confronting the darkness within often took precedence over the external. Suddenly, a muffled cry pierced the stillness, a voice carried by the wind. Jake froze, adrenaline surging and instincts sharpening. This was the moment that would demand everything of him. Would he unravel under the pressure, or would he open himself to the risk and possibility of change? As the three of them pressed on, he could hear the heartbeat of the forest echoing his own struggle, each rustle reminding him of the stakes. In that moment, they had moved beyond mere survival. They had become intertwined, connected by a silent acknowledgement of their shared quests. And with every step forward, Jake realized he was carving out a new path in his life, revealing layers he had not yet discovered. But what would happen if those hidden layers were darker than he anticipated? As they drew closer to the source of the cry, Jake felt that the real test was yet to come. Would he embrace the uncertainty, or let it overwhelm him? As they pressed deeper into the forest, Jake felt the gravity of the moment settling heavily around him. The muffled cry echoed again, stronger and closer now, igniting an urgency within that drowned the whispers of self-doubt. He had come this far, not only for Mia and the woman but for himself. The journey had transformed from a perilous adventure into an awakening of purpose. With quick, steady breaths, they moved toward the sound. Each rustling branch reminded him of the fears he had battled, the memories of his own hesitations flickering like shadows in his mind. But with Mia by his side, and the determination blossoming within him, excuses no longer had dominion. Here was an opportunity to reclaim his identity, not just as a protector, but as a leader ready to rise to the occasion, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. "Keep your voice low," he whispered to Mia, his gaze sharp. They reached a cluster of thick bushes, and as Jake hovered closer, he could see a small figure trembling on the ground. A young girl, no more than 8, sat huddled beside a tree, fear reflecting in her wide eyes. "Is that her?" Mia asked, her excitement bubbling over with concern. "Yes, that must be her," Jake affirmed, feeling a rush of hope mingling with the fear setting in his chest. "Stay here. I'll approach." Jake stepped forward, each footfall careful over the fallen branches as he knelt before the girl. "Hey there," he said gently, trying to soothe her anxiety. "It's okay. We're here to help you." She looked at him, fear etched across her face, but he could see a glimmer of recognition. I got lost," the girl stammered, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean to." "I know you didn't," Jake reassured her, feeling the weight of responsibility shift onto his shoulders. "Can you tell me your name?" "Lucy," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Mia and I are here with your mom. We're taking you home," Jake continued, feeling a surge of connection. Her trembling began to subside, and he saw the flicker of hope in her eyes, solidifying his belief that he could guide her to safety, that perhaps this very moment would seal his transformation. "Can you walk with me?" he asked. Yes, she sniffed, standing with wobbly legs. Jake extended his hand, the gesture a clear invitation for trust. As their palms met, something profound surged through him, an acknowledgement of his ability to lead beyond his fears. He had long wrestled with the notion of his own worth. But here, amidst the shadows of the forest, Jake felt undeniable strength solidify within. Turning, he signaled to Mia and the woman. "I found her, let's go." The weight of urgency pulled them together in a synchronized stride. As they wound back through the trees, Jake felt the brush of progress with every step. The shadows that had previously loomed over him began to fade, replaced by decisiveness and clarity. The burden of self-doubt he had carried for so long seemed diminished in the light of his newfound purpose. For every step they took closer to safety, he felt lighter, and the realization that he was contributing positively to someone else's life filled him with satisfaction, far beyond survival. The moment they breached the edge of the forest and saw the open field where the other woman had come from, relief washed over him. He could see her pacing anxiously, eyes scanning the woods. When Lucy broke into a run, the immediate cry of joy bursting from her mother filled Jake with validation. He had facilitated more than a just rescue. He had kindled a reconnection, a rekindling of hope that transcended his own life and struggles. As the two women embraced, grateful yet relieved, Jake felt something shift in him. The journey he had embarked upon, fraught with uncertainty, had molded him into something greater, revealing strengths he didn't know he possessed. This wasn't merely a moment of achieving triumph. It was an affirmation of evolution, of transformation fueled by courage, vulnerability, and compassion. "Amazing work, Jake," Mia chirped, running to his side. Her eyes sparkled with admiration, and in that moment, he recognized that by setting out to save Lucy, he had redefined his own boundaries. With a heartfelt smile, he slipped his arm around Mia, standing proudly beside her. The connection they had forged in the woods, this shared adventure, would be the very cornerstone of who he had become. "Thank you," the woman said, approaching Jake, gratitude pouring from her voice. "I can never repay you for this." "You already have," he replied, sincerity weaving through his words. "The courage you showed by seeking help is commendable. It fueled my own." Looking back towards the forest they had navigated, he felt a bittersweet acknowledgement pass over him that he had finally confronted his inner struggles amid the uncertainties of life. From this day forth, nothing would be the same. Jake had not only saved a girl but emerged whole, confident, assertive, and inspired to continue exploring not just external worlds, but his internal landscapes too. He could lead with integrity, holding space for fear while choosing to act in spite of it. He was now poised to embrace future challenges, armed with the truth of his resilience. This new chapter offered more than just closure. It was the beginning of a life forged not in hesitation, but in decisive, courageous action. And as the sun dipped low, coloring the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Jake stood grounded in the knowledge that they had all triumphed that day. Now more than ever, Jake understood that life would continue to test him, but he was ready, with heart brave and full of hope, embracing whatever may come. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure our journeys continue to reach those who need them most. Comment your reactions and theories about this incredible conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspiring story. Let's spread the word. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.